Good morning, everybody. Today it's time to make some ugly biscuits. This morning, David was getting ready to go out and doctor up some of our cattle, and he said, Danna, some people don't know how to cook. Maybe you need to get on there and teach them a recipe or two. And I said, you know what? I'll share some recipes, and ugly biscuits is what we're cooking today. So y'all come into the kitchen with me and let's make some ugly biscuits. Really easy stuff. So here we are in my kitchen, and I'm going to let you know that the recipe is in the cookbook, Time to Eat Y'all, the Bicentennial Cookbook. It's on page 33. And if you look at this recipe, it's really simple. You just need a very few ingredients, and they are 2 cups of self-rising flour, 1 stick of butter melted, which I have right here. I got my flour right here. 2 tablespoons of butter that we're going to drop in the pan. So I've got that right here, my cold butter. And then 1 cup of milk and 1 tablespoon of vinegar. That's all you need to make some really delicious biscuits. The first thing you're going to do is crank up that oven to 475 degrees. So we got the oven cranked up to 475 degrees. Now we're going to mix things up. The first thing we're going to do is get our trusty pan. Now this is one of my really old cast iron pans that I use and love. And I have a whole bunch of cast iron that I love. But if you don't have cast iron, you can use some other pans. You can use a regular baking sheet. You can use a glass baking dish. Or you can use just a regular old skillet. All of these things will help you make some great biscuits. So the first thing we're going to do is pull out 2 tablespoons of butter to put in the bottom of our pan. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to get my 2 tablespoons, put in my pan. And why am I doing this? The reason I'm going to put this in the pan right here is I'm going to get this pan preheated in the oven. So at this point, the butter will melt, the pan will be hot, and I will move right on making these biscuits. And you'll see they're going to be light and tasty and really yummy for your family. All right, I've got that in there. Let's get started making those biscuits. I've got me a mixing bowl right here, and I've got my flour, my beautiful flour bin, and in this is self-rising flour. Now there's a difference between self-rising and all-purpose. We'll talk about that later, but this is self-rising, very easy. We're going to do 2 cups straight into the bowl. So I've got my scoop here. Now y'all know normally when I'm doing this myself, I don't measure. I can tell by looking because I've made them for so long. But for the purpose of any new cooks out there, I'm going to let you see me measure it. And you know, you put it in there, and if it's a little scooped over the top like this, all you've got to do is take a straight edge, which I have right here, and knock that off level. So you've got 2 cups. So we got our 2 cups of flour there. We're going to set this to the side. We're going to make a hole right here in the middle. And when I say make a hole, I just make a little indentation in it. It's the way my mama always did it and the way her mama did it, and that's what we do. And it makes it easier to mix things together. And then we're going to add the different other things that we need. Something that we need is the milk with the tablespoon of vinegar. Now, if you've got buttermilk, you can use buttermilk as well, and it makes for a different kind of taste on the biscuits that's really good. But even if you've got buttermilk, you still put a little bit of this vinegar in here. This vinegar is going to make your biscuits light and fluffy. So we're going to pour our vinegar in here. It's hard to say in the morning. And we're going to let that sour the milk. So this will turn into soured milk because of that vinegar. And if you look at it after it sits for a few minutes, you'll see that it gets a little thicker. So we're going to let that sit for a second, and we're going to check on and see if our butter's melting or not. Okay, it's melting a little bit, not quite warmed up yet. So what I'm going to do right now is get busy mixing this stuff up. So we're going to pour in our milk. Set that to the side. Then we're going to pour in our butter. Now, I melted this butter at 33 seconds. One stick of butter, I melted it 33 seconds in my microwave. Your microwave might be different, might take a little longer or a little less, but that's how I melted my butter this morning. Now, let me tell y'all how I came up with Ugly Biscuits. Back in the day when I used to be a classroom teacher, I taught biology and English at Hayden High School. Go Wildcats. And one day I came home from work and we had been doing labs that day. I was exhausted. There's no kind of teacher tired like teacher tired when you've been doing labs all day with students. And it's a beautiful, wonderful thing, but you're also tuckered out. So what happened? I got home, my 3 kids and my husband expected some biscuits to go with what I had put in the crock pot that morning. What I had put in the crock pot was beef tips and gravy. So I put that in the crock pot. I knew we needed some kind of biscuits. And you know what? I always make biscuits that are like my mother taught me to make, that are beautiful biscuits. At that point, that's the only type of biscuits I made. You know, you rolled them out, you cut them, you got flour everywhere. They were beautiful. Just a good Southern Deep South biscuit. But you know what? I was so tired that day. I didn't have time. I just thought, I can't do it. I'm too tired. I mean, I'm going to get this supper on the table and I'm going to rest. So what I do as a hobby is I read recipe books, old recipe books. I had been reading some books about different types of bread. So you know what? On a wing and a prayer from the good Lord above, I said, let me see if I can come up with something else really fast. So I concocted a recipe in my mind, mixed it up real fast, and it was something a cross between a, you know, like a drop biscuits and a topping for one of my casseroles. So anyway, I mixed it together, put it in the oven, and it smelled so good. I just got to tell y'all, I still remember how good that smelled. And when I thought, these are going to be great, and I pulled them out of the oven, and when I did, y'all, those were the flattest biscuits. They had spread together. It was like one big piece of bread, and I thought, heavenly day, what am I going to do as a Southern Deep South cook, an Alabama cook? I'm like, I can't serve these biscuits to my family because, you know, we do take pride in our cooking here in the South. And so what I ended up doing is, I thought, well, I'm too tired. I can't make any more. We're going to cover them up with this gravy anyway. I'm going to give it a go. So I put those biscuits on the table, and you know what happened? They loved them. Everything got real quiet, and they started eating with a lot of gusto. And I thought, yes, I've got a good recipe. They may not look good, but I can throw these together in a hurry. But you know, the next time I made biscuits, hang on, let me check the butter. The next time I cooked biscuits, ooh, wait, look at that butter. I'll finish that story in just a second. We're going to get this butter rolling all over our pan, so every bit of dough will have that yummy, yummy butter soaked into it and cooked into it. So anyway, I have my pan here, and I don't know if you can see it, so I'm going to pull it back here and not burn myself. There we go. There's my pan. Okay, so what I was telling you is they loved them that day I made them. Well, the next time I made something and I needed to make biscuits, I made my beautiful Southern biscuits, Deep South biscuits that I've been making my whole life, and they were so pretty and so beautiful. And I served them, and the kids ate them, and the husband ate them, and then one of my children said, "No offense, Mom, we prefer the ugly biscuits." And I said, hallelujah, because now we're making ugly biscuits, and I don't make the other kind anymore unless it's a different occasion. I always make the ugly biscuits because that's what my family enjoys. So remember where we're at. We've got the flour, the butter, and the milk with vinegar in it, and we're fixing to stir these puppies up. We're going to stir and just get everything moistened. And you got to keep in mind, I've been making these a long time and usually just do this by looking at it. But this is going to be a thinner than normal batter. And you just stir and get that stuff stirred up. And if there's a few lumps in it, it's okay. The sun's still going to rise tomorrow. If we got a lump in it, it won't matter. So we're going to stir these biscuits really well. And you see this dough I've got right here, how thin it is. Now, I've made these biscuits with my grandkids, and they all know how to make them, and they love them, and they like the taste of them. I've made these biscuits for heads of big companies in the state of Alabama. I've given out this recipe over and over, and they're always asking for them. So, y'all, it's easy. It's just real easy. Don't tell anybody because we want them to think we're something else, but it's really just easy. Now, I'm just going to dollop little dollops, little mounds. See what I'm doing? I'm just raking it out, just a little biscuit dough at a time. It's about 2 to 3 tablespoons. We're going to dollop these out. And y'all, these are going to cook and spread together, and you're going to end up with some yummy bread. All right, here we go. Let's make sure we get all that in there. And when we get finished, this is going to kind of run together. So what we got to do right now is put them in the oven. So here I go. Y'all wish me luck. I'll see you in a second. Now that's going to take about 10 minutes in the oven, so I'm going to turn my timer on. And we are on the way. Now I'm going to tell you what they look like when they get through after you put them in for about 10 minutes. Now you might want to start checking them at about 9 minutes or maybe 8. But the bottom's going to be very good and brown and beautiful goldenish brown. The top's going to have a little bit of color on it. So that's what it's going to look like. Now, if you can cook them as long as you want to, but that's how my family likes them. Now, I told you that we would talk a little bit about flour and what the difference is, and that's what we're going to do right now as we're waiting for those 10 minutes so you can see my pretty biscuits. Well, my ugly biscuits. You know they're ugly, but they taste pretty. Okay, let me get the flour out here, and I'm not... I'm going to tell you like I would tell somebody that come to my kitchen. If you're in the kitchen with me and you say, Danna, what's the difference between these kind of flours? I'm going to tell you, and I'm just going to have to show you the kind that I use myself. Now, I'm not advocating for this kind of flour, but this is the kind of flour that me and my family uses. This is a self-rising flour right here, and it'll tell you on there when you go buy it, self-rising. That means everything it needs to go ahead and rise is already in it. And this is what I always use to make my biscuits. Now, if you don't have this kind and you have the all-purpose flour, let me show you that. This is the same variety, but it is all-purpose flour. And when you use this, you've got to add some things to it so it will rise. If you don't add the stuff to it, it's not going to rise, and you're really going to have some flat biscuits. What do you have to add to it to make it rise? You're going to need some salt, and you're going to need some baking powder, and you can get these at the store. Now, when I make my pie dough for my pie, this is what I use, the all-purpose. But look, it's not rocket science. If you look on the back of it, it'll tell you what you need to make it rise. Like on the back of this, it tells you you're going to need baking powder and salt. And on the back of this, you don't need that, you know, if you're doing the self-rising. But this is the kind I always use, is self-rising flour. So I'm going to put this back up, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about ugly biscuits. After I developed these ugly biscuits, they were just so easy. I just started throwing them together like that all the time. And, you know, you can throw them together pretty fast. And that's what I've been doing for years. But I want to tell you about, in the cookbook, there's a story that I wrote in this cookbook, and it's entitled, oh, let me get my glasses, National Security of Mama's Heart and Ugly Biscuits, God Bless America. How did that come to be? Well, my son, Caleb, went to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and then he went on to serve his country in different places. But during one stint, when he was in training. They dropped that boy along with all the other people in his group. They dropped him out in the middle of nowhere, and he had to do survival training for 2 weeks. That means he had to survive off what he could get off the land. And so he had very little rations. So you can imagine all of them were looking for food, trying to survive and not get captured by the enemy, so to speak. They were training, you know. So of course, I was praying like I always do, pray and make sure God knows to take care of my boy. So God was taking care of my boy, but my boy was hungry out there too. And he was getting so hungry that he was dreaming about my ugly biscuits. He was dreaming about them. Have you ever been so hungry that you're dreaming about food? Well, he was very hungry out there, and he was living off the land, but you know, it wasn't what he was used to. So when he finally called me up and they got him out of the survival training, he called me up and he said, "Mom, I've been telling anybody who will listen about how good your ugly biscuits are." And he said he even dreamed about them. Sorry, I tear up a little bit at this. But anyway, he told me that. And of course, you know me as a Southern mama. I'm going to go feed that boy. That's what I'm going to do. So we pulled out that credit card, got me some tickets out there, and me and David flew out to Colorado to take care of our boy. And you better believe that he had as many ugly biscuits as he could eat while I was out there, because I'm going to tell you something about us Southern mamas. We're going to feed our kids or we're going to die trying. And so that's what I did. And so that is the reason that we, to this day, talk about our ugly biscuits, and we talk about the national security of Mama's Heart and Ugly Biscuits, because I needed to go feed my son. He needed some of Mama's cooking to go out there and serve his country, and his mama needed to cook for him, so that I could have peace in my kitchen and pray for him as he went out to serve our country. And he did. And I'm sorry I got teary-eyed, but I am a Southern mama, and I love my kids, just like all of you do. And want to take care of them. And when they're here, I'm going to feed them some ugly biscuits if I get the opportunity to. But on a lighter note, let's talk about some of the good things that are going on right now. We're going to get to stay at home for a few weeks, and we're going to get to take care of our family. So come on, y'all, let's make some ugly biscuits and get in the kitchen with our kids, our grandkids, and do some cooking. This is a time that it can be a little scary, but also it can be a joy. Just think about it, having some time off to be with your family and to cook for your family. Now, y'all just spare me one little second and let me look in the oven here. Okay, they're rising and they're looking pretty good. It won't be long, we'll have some. Let me tell you what we do with ugly biscuits. They're really, really good by themselves. You can just pull them off and eat them hot. They're so good. You can put butter on them. You can put syrup and you know, treat them like a pancake, put butter and syrup on them. You can put jelly on them. You can put gravy on them. You can make any kind of gravy, sausage gravy or beef tips and gravy, and just pour it right over it. It's really, really good, and I make that a lot. And those are the different things you can do to serve with your biscuits. But you know what? I know a lot of little kids that won't eat much of anything else. I get these reports from people that make the biscuits, and they say, you know, about the only thing they'll eat is ugly biscuits. I went to a primary school not long ago, and I told them all about my ugly biscuits and sent the recipes home with them, and had different kids send me pictures of them making their ugly biscuits. They were happy, their grandma was happy, their mom and daddy was happy because they were eating, and it's just a good thing to do. We've still got about 2 minutes to go. And like I said, I just want to give you encouragement from my kitchen to yours so that you can be encouraged during these times. You know, God is still on his throne, and we're all going to be fine. And we just need to make the best of this, because that's what we Southern mamas tell our kids. We're going to make the best of this, and we're going to make it through. And life is good, and we're all blessed. And let's just look out for each other. Let's call our neighbors and make sure they're okay. Let's follow the president's guidelines that he's put out on how to keep each other safe from getting this virus. And we're going to do that, and we're going to have a good attitude about it, and we're going to cook, and we're going to go out and work in our yard, and we're going to take care of our house and our kids and play some games and watch some videos, and this is going to be all right. We're going to be fine. From one Southern mama to you, we're going to be fine. Just fine. Now let me check these biscuits again. Now I'm going to pull these out and show you right quick. This is what they look like. I need a little bit more browning to take place on the top before we're ready to eat them, but you can see if they look, you know, like this in yours, they're doing okay. So let's give it a few more minutes. Now, if some of you don't know about where this cookbook came from, they're all sold out now, but this is the cookbook that came from the Alabama's Bicentennial, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to author it. So there's some stories in there about Southern families, and they happen, a lot of them are mine, and then there's some stories from other people in there as well. And the stories have, they tell about different Southern families, and they all have recipes with them. So whether you want to make chicken and dumplings, or whether you want to make a beautiful cake, or some other kind of dessert, there are a lot of good Southern cooking in here. And if you don't have this, I will try to relist it somewhere on my Facebook site, the recipe for ugly biscuits, because it's so easy. You got to make them with your kids or grandkids, or just make them for your husband, or make them for yourself, for goodness sake. It's okay if we treat ourselves. All right. Maybe these will be ready in just a second, and we'll move on. Now, I hope you'll join me in the kitchen. I'm going to get in here and do some tips and different things on how to cook, easy things to cook that you can cook while you're at home. And I'll try to have some already cooked so I won't draw it out any longer. But I think this is fun, and I just want to encourage y'all, and y'all know my heart. I love people, and I want everybody to be happy, and I want everybody to have a full tummy. I like to feed people. I come from a long line of people who like to feed people, and that's just what we do. If you're here, we're going to try to make sure you're fed, if you'll allow it. Well, let me get me a plate, and we're going to pull out one of these biscuits just shortly. Y'all hang on just a minute. I know you may be looking at my plate saying, gee, those look like old-timey plates. Well, they are. I have a collection of brown drip pottery plates that I've been collecting for years, and this is one of my plates. Here is my butter dish. It's brown drip. And y'all, I was thrilled to death when I found this. Now this, I found not long ago, is a crock for flour. And I'm telling you what, as much as I cooked, I was thrilled. And when I found it, I squealed with delight, and my husband was with me, and he said, are you kidding? I said, oh no, I want this. This is a good thing. So I've got this. I love it. I also have a set of measuring cups from old, back in the day. And they're so cute. This is 1 cup. This is 3/4 of a cup. And look at this little cute one right here. This is 1/4 of a cup. Now, isn't that the cutest? You can have cute things like this in the kitchen, and thrifting, when I go to the flea markets and thrift stores, they don't cost much money. I clean them up good and love them in my kitchen. All right, folks, we're pulling these biscuits out, and we're going to get us some in just a minute. All right, we're getting a little brown on the top, just like it should be. And what we're going to do now is pull them out. And you know what you have to do when you start serving them? You notice they've run all together. Well, you know what? That's all right. This is what we do. Where the little lines are, I take my spatula and I cut them apart. And see how flat they are? They're just a little flat biscuit. And if you turn them over, they're beautiful golden. And what we're about to do is butter us one up, even though it don't need much butter because you know I cooked butter in it. Butter us a little bite up. Hadn't you heard that thing about butter my biscuit? Well, there you go. We're going to butter this biscuit and take a little bite, and it's so hot. I'm going to let it cool for just a second. All right, let's taste a little bit of this biscuit. The bottom is crunchy, the inside is soft and fluffy. It is a delicious biscuit, whether you cover it with gravy or not. I hope you really, really enjoy these ugly biscuits. All my love from the Standridge kitchen, from Danna's kitchen to yours. Y'all leave some comments and let me know if you made the biscuits so I'll know if you like them or not. Okay, all my love, let's have a good day. Bye, y'all.